Ugly. I'm obviously from the UK, but I'm now based in New York here in the US. Started the business back in the UK just over 4 or 5 years ago now.
Hey, so I'm Orla, as Rosie said. I am Ugly's Global Direct-to-Consumer and Brand Manager. I am actually still based in London, so ever since everything's gone remote, it's kind of worked out for us. And yeah, very excited to be speaking to you all.
Thank you. All right, let's jump in because we seriously have so much to talk about. Let's kick things off by you guys telling us a bit more about Ugly. So I want to know, when did the company start? What is the mission of the brand? And who is your target audience? Hugh, I think you're going to take this one.
Yeah, of course. I'd also add that Orla is our longest suffering employee and has been with us since the beginning. She failed to mention that. So Orla is with us. Yeah, so firstly, thank you everybody for tuning in. It's an honor to be able to tell the Ugly story. We're still living it. We're still living the journey. We've gone through lots of ups and downs, a big roller coaster over the last 4 or 5 years, and learned a ton. And hopefully we can share some of our learnings today, but we're always learning ourselves. So we will probably be tuning into some of you listening when you do yours in the coming years and learning and building on what we're doing. Ugly started back in the UK. I used to work for another beverage brand back home and became increasingly frustrated by the prominence of sugar and sweetener in beverages. 60% of Brits and 60% of Americans are now overweight, and 30% in both markets are obese. There's 100 million pre-diabetic Americans, and the overconsumption of sugar and high fructose corn syrup and sweeteners over the last 50 years plus has been a massive component of driving this. When you look at the beverage market, soda still dominates. In the US, it's a $90 billion category. In the UK, it's a $10 billion category. There are hundreds of millions of consumption occasions of soda every day. And I sat there back kind of 4, 5, 6 years ago with a mum who is a diabetic specialist nurse back in the UK, telling me that you are what you drink as much as what you eat. And I really spent time thinking about, how do we create a solution to the problem of overconsumption of sugar and sweetener that makes a lot of people unhappy and unhealthy. A lot of healthy beverages too are expensive, $5, $10 for a green juice. And as much as we all love those things, making health accessible and affordable to as many people as possible was a big part of what we wanted to do. So we decided to make a flavored sparkling water business. And you can see here just a selection of the range we have today. We're a water brand like no other. We are fun, rebellious, we're mainstream in our pricing, we're affordable, and we've designed a brand that can be accessible, whoever you are, whatever your background, so that you can choose something that is a replacement for that can of soda without losing the fun, the flavor, and the refreshment at the same price point. And that's what's always driven us. How can we solve that soda problem for as many people as possible? The mission of the brand, which was on the previous slide, it is to do exactly that. And the name follows that kind of mission too. We wanted to be transparent. We wanted to tell it as it is. There's no marketing gimmicks, no false promises. We're not promising to give you wings or open happiness. We're just here to tell the ugly truth. And we have no sugar, no sweetener, no calories, and nothing artificial in our products. As you can see on the slide here, on the previous slide, we have a range of flavors ranging from cherry cola to Dr. Pepper flavor to lemon lime in the UK to cherry to fruit flavors. And it's a 0 calorie, 0 sugar product that is refreshing. We also, on the next slide, take a stand, and we wanted to tell the ugly truth about other things in the world. One of those was gender inequality, and we decided to partner with Girl Up, which is the United Nations Foundation initiative that supports girls around the world in places where it's hard to be a girl, not only in the developing world where we donate money, but also in the developed world too, because it's hard everywhere. Something we were very passionate about internally, and something we also knew that our consumer was passionate about. And then recently on the right-hand side, we partnered with Oceanic Global, the ugly truth that the 2 world's largest beverage companies are the largest plastic polluters in the world. We are a aluminium can business with 100% recyclable products. So we donate money from every can sold to removing plastic pollution from the ocean. So not only are we telling the ugly truth about soda, but we're telling the ugly truth about other important things. And we donate money from every can sold to these causes in both the UK and the US. When it comes to our target audience, we've created a brand that speaks to a younger demographic, but also a consumer of soda that's maybe looking for that fun alternative. Ugly should feel and look like a soda brand, but ultimately taste and have the credentials of something healthy. And so that's kind of what we're all about. Started the business back in my bedroom in London in 2015. We then moved to a shipping container office in Elephant and Castle in South London. And since then, we've now grown the business to be in over 6,000 stores in the UK, almost 15,000 stores in the US. I've now moved to New York and we have our business here. But from day one, we've always been omni-channel and direct-to-consumer focused, which we're excited to talk to you about today. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview.
Thank you, Hugh. That's amazing. It's such an inspiring business, how you started and where you're at now. And I know that you launched Ugly in Selfridges, right? And your Shopify website in 2016 during the very traumatic year of Brexit for us Brits. So not the easiest of years to launch things. And like you said, you're now stocked in over 6,000 stores across the UK. You started in retail, yet it seems that you quickly saw the need to have an e-commerce store. What was that experience like, trying to drive more of a D2C presence without solely relying on your retail partnerships?
It's a great question, and I think something we've always had in our minds since day one is that people nowadays, and again, you can talk about channel strategy for a company, but there's a channel strategy for the consumer too. I'm sure everyone on this call in the last month has bought something direct to consumer through a brand's website, on Amazon, on Ocado, on Tesco.com, and also in retail. So people pick up products and discover products in a variety of places. They discover them scrolling through Instagram. They discover them walking into the local farm shop. And I think we were aware of that on day one. People are always going to buy beverages when they're thirsty. And as great as our fulfillment is, and we're very fast on it, that moment of thirst is incredibly quick, and there's nothing like grabbing an ice cold can out of the fridge. So what we wanted to do was build something omni-channel from the beginning. We launched initially kind of very early on in that D2C landscape, which is, everyone's talking about now. I don't even think that three-letter phrase was something we spoke about at the time, but we launched into Selfridges. We literally walked into the office in the back of the store and dropped our samples off. That was our first store listing. We stood in the store, we did demos. We also had built the brand with a social media first presence. That's how people were going to find out about us. So we were built on Instagram. We were using Twitter to get the word out there. This is before TikTok and Facebook. Well, not before Facebook, but before TikTok, which we now, really growing into. But we started, we would obviously launch in Selfridges in London. We were in the Birmingham and Manchester stores as well, but we weren't available in your local store at the time. And so we started having people reach out to us all around the UK, Northern Scotland, West Wales, Cornwall, Norfolk, people saying, I'm looking for low sugar alternatives, I'm looking for healthy alternatives, where can I buy your product? And I think for us, that was the real stimulus to put the foot on the gas. I sound so American saying that, but
you've been there too long.
Yeah, to start to create a platform where anyone could get access to our product. And so we were very early on in terms of building that presence, really driven by consumer demand. I think what we then learned is how many benefits it has to an early brand. There is so much richness in building a community, getting feedback from customers, seeing where people are buying it. And very quickly, we mapped out where people were buying our products. And it was kind of like that map of pubs in the UK, where the whole map is covered. And we saw we had a national presence, and it was super exciting. And I think really by teaching ourselves, which is what we've done here, we haven't followed, since we've started this, so many amazing D2C businesses have launched. I'm sure many have spoken on this platform, but we taught ourselves, we taught ourselves how to use Klaviyo. We've taught ourselves the benefits of analyzing the data, learning about consumers. And since then, we've done so many interesting things with direct to consumer that have benefited not only our D2C business, but our retail business and our general brand awareness.
That's great, thank you. And So I know it's not just me that wants to know this, because a lot of questions came in relating to this next question is what's next for Ugly? Because we already know you have subscriptions set up. Are you planning to do more in this field? I feel like subscriptions is something that almost all brands are looking into at the moment. So yeah, so I'd love to know what is next for Ugly. You've already done so much, but what's coming up?
Yeah, so I think one of the things for us that's been really exciting over the last 12 months, certainly as we went into the pandemic, obviously for everybody on this call, life and business was disrupted in different ways. Some of it's been really exciting, and you can see that because everybody's been at home shopping online, we've seen a big growth in our D2C and other online businesses, but we also saw retail and some, certainly in the UK, with everybody at home and not going to offices and places like that, become more challenging. One of the things we did in the US, which we are bringing to the UK this year, was an idea that came out of us not being able to meet consumers in real life, not being able to test stuff with people. And we decided to take our flavor lab, which got closed during the pandemic, to our fans and to our online community. And so what we did was we decided to ask the community what flavors they'd like to see from us next. And the list of answers we got was as if you asked a 10-year-old what they would like to see. Nobody was asking for tangerine or
I bet.
The list was, I want unicorn flavor, and I want cherry cola and marshmallow and chocolate cake flavor. And some of those flavors, there was a very clear data that came from our fans, and we had an amazing response to this. It was so amazing how many people actively wanted to help us choose what came next. We were kind of staggered and blown away by the response. And so what we decided to do was create the flavors that they'd asked for, do small batch runs, and then launch those one flavor every month only on our direct to consumer platform. And so last year we launched a cherry cola, a Dr. Ugly, which is the flavor of a very well-known Doctor flavored beverage.
I can guess which one.
Yes, there's only a couple. There's only one out there. We've done marshmallow, fruit punch. We've done sour apple, all sorts of flavors of sparkling water. And what was amazing is that we got feedback within the month. We sent out a survey to the people who purchased the flavors. We gave early access on email, early access on SMS. And then we launched it to the public, and we got amazing feedback from our community, what they liked, what they didn't like, what we should do next, which flavors, sold out the fastest, what got the most engagement. And every time we've launched them, we've improved, and we committed to launching them every month. And so now some of those have been so successful that our retail partners approached us and said they wanted to take those into store.
Oh,
so
wow.
Something that started as a very small idea is now some of those products actually launching on Monday into 6,500 CVS stores here in America.
Oh my God.
With some of those flavors that we launched limited edition last year. And then later in this year, we're launching a similar program with a different range of flavors. We've asked our UK fans what they want, and they have a very different palette. So we're looking forward to launching a similar program in the UK. And I'd say what's exciting about it is just the way we've been able to link using direct to consumer in a different way, learning from our community, listening to our community, and then that working so well that we've been able to put it into traditional retail, but also sell them on our website too. So I think it's been a really great example of us, and hopefully answers your question in telling you where we're going. Someone described us last week as the Willy Wonka of sparkling water.
I love that.
So, Willy Wonka being a personal hero of mine, like the ultimate compliment for us to get. So we're really excited about where that takes us. And if you can imagine how exciting that concept of listening, executing, and then delivering it to consumers is when in an online world. We launched 12 new flavors in 12 months. If we were just doing that in retail, we'd never have been able to make it happen. So yeah, that's an exciting concept for everybody listening, and something that we didn't stumble upon. We kind of worked it out as we went, but it wasn't some sort of Harvard Business Review case study that we executed. It was us listening and learning and moving and reacting, which you can only do online, really.
Yeah, that's so true. And you're right. That definitely answers my question. Because I knew that you guys were doing a similar thing in the US, because we chatted before and I was like, oh, why isn't he doing that in the UK? That would be so cool to have that here. So I'm really, really happy that you're going to be launching it in the UK, and I would love to see the sorts of flavors that you've gotten so far. What would you say is the weirdest that's not going to make it but is definitely out there?
We've had all sorts. I think we did look into a pizza flavor.
Oh God.
Someone requested a keg, I think. That was probably the most complex one, was a keg. We were trying to work out how you would keep that fizzy.
So yeah, we've had, and one of our flavors, I think somebody requested to buy a pallet for their wedding.
Wow.
For the Dr. Ugly flavor. So it's a pretty good indicator that somebody enjoyed it. It's just been amazing. Like, it's amazing to have that one-to-one relationship almost with our consumers. We're not a massive team, a massive company. It's Orla and I looking through the responses. We are listening. We're really taking it on board. We really care what people think. And I think, it's just one of the best bits of the job right now is when we actually find out what everybody wants from us next. It's such an interesting way of doing it. And so far it's been really exciting. So we're looking forward to doing it in the UK. I won't overcommit us on delivery date.
That's okay. We know it's coming.
Yeah, and Orla's the real mastermind behind this. So I get to tell you what we did, but Orla
has to do the legwork.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just super excited because I don't get the kind of never-ending access to these crazy products because I'm based out of London. So once we move it all over here, which will come in the next couple of months, I get to kind of drink those on repeat. So that's super exciting.
That is so exciting. I'm jealous of your job already, and I think it's, apart from the fun side of it, I just think it's so important these days to involve your customers. You said you're a small brand, but you're actually pretty big now, but you still have that small brand ethos, which I think is so important, to involve your customers at this kind of stage. It makes them feel really kind of valued, and is definitely going to make them stick around and be more of a committed customer because they've had that input in something real like that. So now we actually have a community submitted question. We got lots of them, so it was quite hard to pick out of all of the questions that we got. So I know that you've mentioned you currently have 80,000 customers on your Shopify store database, which is incredible, by the way. You must be very, very proud of that. And the community wanted to know what were some of the brand's key milestones, and what's the biggest lessons that you've learned through those milestones?
It's a great question. We're very lucky to have built that community, and we've learned so much along the way about building it, and listening has been a massive lesson for us. That I think, certainly, if I talk as a founder, when I founded the business. And one of the things you had to get used to is that the plan you have, the only thing you can be certain of is that it will change. Mm-hmm. And I think what we initially started out with and where we are today still follows that same mission, but we've been adjusting and learning and reacting as we go. So, there's always a milestone on the horizon. There's selling in that first Selfridges store was a huge milestone for the business. Even anyone on here who's started a business and got to day one with a physical product, like getting to the start line is a milestone in food and beverage. Like getting anyone starting their own venture, even attempting to do it, like hats off. I won't take my hat off, but literally to anyone who's done it. So there's always been big milestones for us. Certainly launching into, selling our first products online in the UK, and then obviously the US was a massive milestone. Launching into Tesco's and Sainsbury's and mainstream retail in the UK was a pinch me moment as team shopped in those places growing up. Again, launching in the US and seeing people buy it across the country in cities like, New York, Los Angeles. Had a friend who, there's always the little anecdotal things that I remember as milestones. Like a friend staying at an Airbnb in Northern California turned up at the Airbnb and the homeowner's ugly delivery was on the doorstep.
Wow.
Which for me is like crazy. And then the things that I think as a team we always get the most buzz out of is the simple things like standing in a store, not in a creepy way, but being in a store and seeing someone pick up a can and grab a can and spending their hard-earned money on what you've created. And so I know I'm not necessarily answering the question in terms of milestones, but all of those things add up to be really kind of big milestones. I think in terms of lessons learned, there's so many. Certainly launching in America, there's a ton. In the UK, the same. I think we've learned things on every part of it in terms of, you know, trying to run before you can walk, generally being a theme across our business in terms of trying to be too aggressive and not listening and learning and adjusting as quickly as you can. I think sometimes you can bite off more than you can chew, and that can be something to look at. When we first launched in the US, the packaging, the box that we started shipping out direct to consumer deliveries in wasn't tough enough to travel the size of the country. And so we used the same box we had in the UK, which was fine traveling from, you know, Milton Keynes to Newcastle. But when it was going from Pennsylvania to Los Angeles, it was getting beaten up. And we had to adjust and learn these things. You know, we had temperatures in Arizona like over 40 Celsius, and we had temperatures in Minneapolis below freezing at the same time. So we had product freezing in one place and being too hot in the other. So we had to learn and adjust to these, and there's always things that you have to learn and adjust to. And I think it's the Mike Tyson quote, isn't it? Like, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And I think personally, that's been my biggest learning running the company. Is that the only thing you can guarantee is that the plan will change. And I think what Ugly looks like today is the result of, you know, making those constant decisions and tweaks. And, you know, we started very lean. We started with, you know, bootstrapped. So, you know, every layer of, I guess, the onion that we've gone through has like unlocked something. I don't know if I've, you know, really answered it, but.
No, I think you have. It's definitely interesting to hear you speak about the differences between the different struggles, if you like, between the US and the UK. You know, it's just something that you wouldn't even have to think about if you were just selling to UK and maybe Europe. But of course, America is a much, much bigger country than the UK. So, you know, you've got the different temperatures that you spoke about and all of those other challenges. What else would you say is kind of the main difference, if you like, between selling to the UK and selling to the US? Because obviously you're mastering both. So
yeah, there's a lot of differences, and I think, you know, just from a business complexity point of view, I mean, the can size is different, right? In the US, the standard can is
yes, of course,
it's 25 milliliters more than a standard UK can, and so all these things we've had to learn and adjust to. The flavor palettes of consumers, you know, but generally we try and keep things consistent, and we're trying to apply and learn from both markets at the same time. And so we will learn something in the UK that we apply in the US, and then we'll learn something in the US and apply it in the UK, much like this limited editions program. But there's things in the US that we've done that have come from back home. So I think they're massive. Obviously, I think the time zone is a way bigger thing to navigate than you can ever imagine until you're actually doing it. And so customer service for us is now a 24-hour game. And I think that's been something for us to learn. There's obviously different expectations from customers in different parts of the world, but really I think the big learning is on brand consistency. And I think, you know, All has done a phenomenal job working on keeping our brand consistent, but whilst being local. I think you say global and local at the same time. We have local nuances. You even spell the word flavored different in both countries, right? Which we have
That's true. Yeah.
To get right. And so we've got very good at kind of managing the brand globally, whilst feeling the same if you're in London or New York, whilst respecting the local differences. And I think that's something that we've taken a lot of time to be disciplined on. So I'd say that discipline's a big learning for our business.
My spelling is all over the place right now. I'm just constantly spelling per market. The only thing I wanted to add, Rosie, I mean, you alluded to it earlier, Hugh, but like on the direct to consumer side, I think the biggest learning for us has been that there's so much complexity to shipping heavy drinks, particularly like a low cost association item like Ugly, that doesn't necessarily have you don't have to buy it on a really specific cadence. So it's not necessarily like the first thing you think of is sell this product online. And so because of that, we had to make sure that really we maximized like every single benefit from our direct to consumer channel that was commercial, but was also the like getting the feedback from our community, understanding our consumer, using it as part of our retail strategy, driving trial, driving awareness, and building that community. So yeah, I just think in that, I mean, certainly the brand consistency thing is like 50% and a huge part of what I'm doing in my job. But like the other half of it is that kind of, and for everyone here, I think is like knowing the purpose of your direct to consumer strategy and why you use it.
Yeah. Great. And what I really want to chat to you next about is your social media strategy. So Orla, I'm going to presume that this is on you. I might be wrong, but I'd love to hear a little bit more. I know that Ugly is very big into its socials, as you pretty much have to be these days. I know that I first came across Ugly via TikTok. And I love how all of your Instagram posts are basically an advert hidden in a meme. It's very, very clever. You guys should all check it out. So we know that you have a very strong presence across all of the socials. I'm interested to know what particular channels or tactics have you found to be the most effective and scalable for the brand to reach new buyers?
Yeah, for sure. I will give credit where credit's due. Hugh does still get very much involved in the social. I think it's like a sweet spot for you, and you do really like it. But yeah, I think. So, well, I was going to say, we've kind of evolved over time, like you mentioned. But certainly, for us, it's kind of about what channels have we been able to align with our brand and our brand strategy. And you know, Hugh touched on it at the start when he introduced the brand, but like, everything we do is about celebrating realness and imperfectionism and the ugly truth. And so when we started to see everything kind of popping off on TikTok, it was like a no-brainer that this brand was sort of designed for it. It's that kind of like in the moment, unpolished content that feels really real, that you don't spend time like polishing it and making it look amazing. It was just like, let's test loads, trial loads and get involved in it. So certainly that style has been perfect for our brand. And we only really truly launched our TikTok strategy this year, just based on the size of our team and everything else. And yeah, we've just been having a lot of fun creating content and working with like an awesome batch of creators who we've made relationships with in-house. And we're only starting to dabble in the ad side of things, but the growth has been incredibly exciting. So yeah, we're really excited to see where that goes. That's like very much in the kind of future plans for Ugly. And then I think speaking to the other channels that we exist on, so like, in a way, I guess you could say Instagram is the antithesis of that. Instagram sometimes is about that sort of aspirational, like unattainable, you know, influencer on a beach type content that doesn't necessarily fit with the Ugly vibe. But it's an incredibly important channel on Instagram and Facebook. I think naturally for most brands are their, you know, highest converting channel. And I think based on that, we wanted to figure out how we could make all of our content native to those channels while still staying true to who we are and who the brand is. So yeah, I guess that's where really the kind of memes and the chance to bring the Ugly brand world to life, which is super graphic and actually fits really well in that slightly more polished environment. So yeah, I'd say Instagram and TikTok, they've been the hero channels for us. TikTok is certainly the future of Ugly, and yes, please follow us. It's at Ugly Drinks, and it's a lot of fun. Our amazing community manager Eleanor looks after it, and yeah, we're excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, you should all follow them on all channels. You won't regret it. I definitely got a laugh out of the Instagram and TikTok accounts that you guys run. So yeah, so it's just a really good kind of example of how to do it right. And I totally get it. Like, the graphics and the visuals for Ugly, it just really suits being made into a meme. It really does. It's, you know, it's bright, it's colorful, it's eye-catching. So why not kind of exploit that area? And I actually have a follow-up question from the community here. Someone has said, what are 3 social media strategies you should be using when you have very, very little budget to spend? So I'm sure you can look back and, you know, appreciate where this person might be in their kind of building a brand, if you like. So what would your 3 kind of top tips for social be?
I'm like rewinding to our shipping container days. Huh?
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
No, you go. You take that one.
I'd say my first one is to use direct messages, like as much as you possibly can.
Okay.
And to really think through the maths of getting the results you want. I think, what do they say? If you want to have a party, like think about 20% of people attending. I'm sure like any events like that. And really, when you think through direct messaging and reaching out to people and trying to get in touch with people, you need to be hitting like 5 times as many people as you'll eventually hear from. So I think being a lot more ambitious with the amount of time you spend doing it, like direct messaging hundreds of people and reaching out to some people that you might think are out of reach. We've had a lot of people that you'd never think we'd have got in touch with come in touch with us through Instagram and through kind of direct messaging. And so I'd say that costs nothing. That just is you can do it watching the TV when you're the account manager, sending product to people on the back of that and just seeing what happens is massive. I'd say the second thing, and then I'll let Orla share hers, which I'm sure she's thought of 5 or 6 great pieces of advice, is we've always found that like treating stuff like podcasts and interviews and answering blogger questions and going on vlogs and things like that, we've always treated everyone equally, even if you've got 1 million followers, if it's, you know, a newspaper, if it's like somebody with a small blog, you know, we treat everyone equally. Like, and those really add up. Like they really make a difference, and the people really engaged. So there's real value in giving everybody your energy and your time, whoever it is, whether you're doing a demo in store, you're replying to somebody on Instagram who's got, you know, who's a really avid runner with 1,000 people following them who know they're a runner, or whether you're like messaging someone who's got 50 million followers. Like we see value in all of it. And I think just being really balanced and fair has added up and made real results for us over time. Orla, I don't know if you've got anything.
Yeah, I mean, quite similar. I think, first of all, I'd say consistency is a really important one as well in terms of the content you're putting out there. So on all of our channels, we have like a set of different social franchises that we talk about, whether that's like our telling an ugly truth, or we have one which we call Ugly Eats, which is just like the most ridiculous recipes that you could use ugly in that are complete rubbish, and just kind of humorous content like that. And we do test out new ones, but we try to always make sure we're careful at the pace we do that, how we introduce them, and therefore we kind of give people, I guess you like build up trust and you give them something to come back for and to re-engage with. Second one for me would be don't fake it, which I think is similar to what Hugh's talking about on DMs. It's like community management just can't be faked. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of messaging back and forth and really engaging with people and giving them time. And I think we've tried to apply that to every area of our business. So when we had pretty much zero budget in year 1, I think we did like 364 demos between 4 of us in that first year. And that was just outstanding in store. And yeah, it was exhausting, but like it was really fun. And I think people connected with meeting the people who had started this brand. And I think that we try to apply that same logic to social, that like we have to make sure we've got the resource in place to manage what's coming in. And then final one for me would just be creating news in whatever way you can. So for us, that's been the limited edition program. But I just think there's nothing worse than sending out a message or doing a post that just doesn't add any value. So it's just making sure you're sitting back and going like, how can you add value, whether it's with humor or it's with a new product or it's with just like giving something, and making sure you're thinking about that from the consumer's perspective every time you post. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, those are great tips. And I think they're definitely really, really useful to everyone who's attending this talk and is in that kind of entrepreneur phase where they're beginning to launch or beginning to look into the idea of launching. I think all of those tips are really worthwhile and really low cost as well, which is essential at the beginning, right? Like, you know, it's a tricky time, and there's definitely ways to not spend money and to still get the results that you guys have. So getting into Klaviyo now, because I understand that Ugly generates over 20% of your revenue from Klaviyo, which is incredible. Let's dive in and give the audience some examples and tips. So Kelsey, if you could pull up the slide for the first campaign. Because first of all, we're going to talk about campaigns. Now, I know Ugly has a ton of campaigns set up in Klaviyo. They're all very beautiful, very creative, really kind of eye-catching, which makes a lot of sense linking back to your graphics. What does, I'd love to know, what does Ugly use campaigns for? Is it mostly promotion, product releases, or is it more retention of existing customers?
I guess it's very much both, Rosie. We have it kind of split into 3 different buckets. So bucket number 1 would be for kind of those new releases, new products, and in a way that's like acquisition onto new lines, but it's also our customers feeling like they can come back for something new. So you guys have heard all about the limited edition program. It does give us something to talk about every month. I think if that doesn't necessarily make sense for your product, your brand, your business, there's so many other ways to do it. If it's like a free gift with purchase or swag drops, different merchandise things, just kind of new product news. Second bucket would be that promotion and upsell and cross sell that you've mentioned. And I think it's really important for us. And actually this email on the left, a long weekend gift from you to you, is a good example of that. The promotion and upsells really are us trying to give something back. Our followers and our subscribers are our like Ugly VIPs, and we want to make sure that they get first access to all the various offers. We do always try and make sure that they are driving a high average order value. So I think in that particular email, it is a deep discount, but it's like making sure you're purchasing at least a couple of cases with that offer. And then I think the other nice side to that is that it's super timely. So it actually wasn't this, I think that's the last bank holiday weekend. There's that many bank holidays in May in the UK.
We have a lot. We're very lucky in the UK. I know that my American colleagues are a little bit sour sometimes because I think we have, is it 8 or 9 in a year? It's a lot. We're very lucky.
Of public holidays. I think Hugh, you are on public holiday on Monday, right? It's Memorial Day. So we're both off together this week.
Okay. Nice. You get one back as well, Hugh.
Yeah. And then the third bucket. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt. If we could just talk about the first campaign screenshot on the left. So I looked into this one, into your Klaviyo account. So you sent this one obviously just before a bank holiday. It had an open rate of over 20%, which is a really, really decent result. And then we've got the example on the right, which, as you mentioned, is one of your flavor survey campaigns. Now, this one had an open rate of over 45%, which is a little bit crazy. We hardly ever see open rates that high. So yeah, and also on top of that, both of these campaigns had extremely high revenue results. So you're doing something right. These are 2 that definitely really, really worked for you guys.
No, I appreciate that. And I think Klaviyo do an amazing set. Like every year you guys report on sort of industry standard benchmarks, but you also always do it by campaign, by flow specific, and by industry. So like it's a really useful tool if anyone doesn't already read up on that, to be able to kind of like benchmark where you should be. And it's so exciting to see these emails outperform that. I think the email on the right, like you said, is kind of that third bucket for us. So that's that kind of survey, speak to your customer bucket. And for us, like our UK customers have kind of seen what's happening on the other side of the pond with our limited edition program. And I think they're just really excited to be able to have the opportunity to get involved with that. So yeah, we got some really wacky suggestions on what to make. We've kind of tried to take a balance of the most popular and then the most feasible to roll out the first sort of 3 months of flavors, which are coming up this year. So yeah.
Amazing. And so that's kind of like the campaign kind of fun side, but moving on to your flows. So the flows are within your Klaviyo account. Of course, we've received a lot of questions about what some of your best performing flows are besides the welcome series. So let's dive into that. If say I'm a brand who's just starting out in Klaviyo, or I don't have a ton of resources yet to help build flows for my business, what would you say are the top 3 flows that you think are just essential to have set up from the get-go?
Yeah, for sure. And I firstly, just to touch on the not having a ton of resource, like the flows are the thing that you can just set and forget. And it's one of the most effective things that you can, I mean, obviously we review these quarterly and we update them and we optimize, but certainly in terms of time management, if you're a small team, I think at the beginning, I just built flows and I'm not a designer. And I mean, they work to a certain extent and we've been able to improve them over time. But Yeah, in terms of the top three, first recommendation from me would be your abandoned cart flow. Like you've essentially got customers who are incredibly high intent and close to making a purchase. So it's I guess just a total waste not to be able to capture those who may have been on the edge of purchasing your product. So the process we follow on that is a kind of email immediately that says, you've left something in your cart. We follow up with another email about 24 hours later that is more around like our total range or other flavors, just in case someone was exploring something that wasn't right for them, but might actually want to get something else in your portfolio. And then we follow up with a final email a couple of days later, which is like a sort of like shallow discount to see if that just like gets them to bite on it.
Gets them over the line.
Exactly, yeah. Second one for me would be the post-purchase series. So it's just a great opportunity. Like first and foremost, it's just super important to thank your customers. Like they're doing an awesome thing by buying into your brand. So that's always our first email. Our second email is kind of about getting the most out of the product, how to use it. For Ugly, I mean, it's quite simple. Like you just open it and drink it and enjoy it. But we're going to do some mocktails later, so we'll show you some more stuff that you can do.
Yeah, exactly. It's more than drinking out the can. We're going to prove that in a little bit.
Exactly. Third one for us, I think, is following on. I mean, I can't remember if they go in this exact order, but following us on our different social channels. It's a great opportunity to be able to show your customers what else you do and where else they can find you and engage. And then there's a bunch of different ones we could add into that, like our Refer a Friend program, and post-delivery, I guess there's a few important ones like requesting reviews, or for those who don't know that you do subscription, kind of upselling those one-time customers and using that specific segment to try and nudge them into subscriptions. And then I thought I've done two, right? The third one is yeah, I think the third most successful one for us would be our repeat flow. And that's really for customers who have purchased, 2 or 3 times, depending on your product, but aren't subscribing. And it's just making sure they know they have that option available. If they're getting your product a couple of times anyway, why not tell them they can get it in a much more easy way that they don't have to think about it, just arrives at their door. Only other one would be the win-back flow, but I won't go into too much detail on that. They'd be the kind of, that's the basic sort of setup for us. And then there's a load more that you can do, but they're kind of that's our structure, our bones to the program.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And it's funny you mentioned the win-back, because we're actually going to look into your win-back flow right now. So Kelsey, if you could bring up that's it. Thank you very much. So we're going to dig into 2 different flows now. So these are Ugly flows in the Ugly Klaviyo account. This first one, which you already touched on, is your customer win-back flow. Could you tell us a little bit about this flow and the key points that you believe make it so successful?
Yeah, so I think the main purpose for us is just making sure that if someone has purchased or even engaged with the brand, that if they then maybe don't come back to us for an extended period of time, we want to make sure that's not because we just haven't been front of mind, or it's not because they didn't learn the right things about the brand. So it's really about recapturing those people. And I'd say what's important about it is like thinking about the timing. So for us, I think we've done this specific one through experimentation, but we've decided to give them kind of a couple of cycles. So we would expect that everyone would want to drink Ugly every 30 days, if not more. And this one really looks at that kind of customer behavior. How regularly do people drink the product? And let's give them a couple of cycles. And if they still haven't come back after that time, it's just kind of a reminder. So that's the Member Little Ugly Us email. And then it's just about giving them a bit of time and seeing if potentially if an offer would bring them back. And I guess the most important thing I'd add to the end of this is like, if we find that customers don't engage within this flow, we actually move them into a different segment, and we make sure we're not bothering them unless we have like super special news that we think they might engage on. And I think that's incredibly important. And it's like the powers of Klaviyo is that you can speak in a really personalized, bespoke way to your customers, and making sure you're speaking to them about stuff that they want to hear about. Like, not only is it going to help improve your metrics and make sure they're looking a bit better, but it's also what they want. And that's the most important thing. So just making sure you're then following the right process for, like, okay, if someone hasn't engaged in, 180 days, like, they go on a different list, they move to somewhere else, and you're treating them in a different way because that's how they want to be treated.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's so important not to bombard your customers, because it's just such a precious thing. And that's the beauty of these flows, is that does that for you. You can set metrics that say if they haven't responded, then they get sidelined into another segment, and they won't be bothered or bombarded for a certain amount of time. So I think that's a really important thing to look at. And then we also have a second flow that we'll quickly have a look at. So Kelsey, if you could bring up the second flow, thank you. I believe this is your abandoned cart checkout flow. So could you just briefly tell us about this flow and why you think it's one of your best performing flows? I think this is your #1 performing flow, actually.
Yeah, absolutely is. And it kind of comes down to the simple reason I referenced earlier. It's taking a group of customers who were thinking about purchasing your product, like they're on the edge, and it's really just about kind of tipping them over the edge in a positive way, so they get the opportunity to try this product. So yeah, that first email is all about, like, there's a reminder just in case you've forgotten. Second email is like, oh, maybe you want to explore the range. And then the third and the fourth, I think the third is like a 10% discount on Ugly, in case it's just that's what you need to get someone to try it initially. And then the final one for us is like a last chance email. And again, if they move off that flow, they then get left alone and aren't bombarded. But in most cases, which is awesome and why we've seen this to be a super successful one, that we find these to be the steps that our customers have needed just to get involved with Ugly.
Nice. Thank you so much. That's so interesting. And this is our last question before we move into the fun mocktail making. And this question comes from the chat box. So thank you to everyone putting questions in. I can only pick one, so apologies if it's not yours. Hugh, this might be one for you. Are your main competitors the big global companies like Coca-Cola? If yes, how do you compete with them as a small business?
It's a great question, and the answer is yes. I mean, we have big ambitions to really disrupt soda and the way it's consumed, and I think often you can feel overwhelmed by the size of Goliath versus David, right? But they are an oil tanker and we are a speedboat, and we always try and think about ourselves in that sense. And when we have that speedboat mentality, we can do things they can't. We've launched 12 flavors of seltzer in 12 months because of that mentality, because we can push ourselves, because we can have a small team that can take an idea without, going through all sorts of committees and approval processes. We can make it happen. And there's so many examples of that. When somebody messages us, it's one of 3 or 4 of us replying who cares about the brand, who knows about the brand. If you DM Coca-Cola, I don't know what happens, but I can tell you it's not going to be dealt with the same way that we care about everybody who's engaging with our brand. So I think as long as you have that mentality, and I think Airbnb says do things that don't scale, and I think that's the advantage. Really taking care, doing things that it might be time consuming. It might feel like you're getting too involved in the detail, but those things really add up, and that's what the big companies can't do. And that's why we've built a community that is unique because of it.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much to both of you. That was amazing. I feel like we learned so many key tips and insights there, and thank you for sharing your flows and campaign examples with us. So before we get into mixing up our mocktail, and then we will do the giveaway, I promise it's coming, I'm going to do a quick poll that I'm going to pull up now. Let me do that. Basically, I'm just really interested in how you all found the show today. 0 means you hated it, you never want to come again.
Vote
and
for 0.
No, don't vote for 0. And if you loved it, then give us a 5 to let us know, so that we know to continue doing this. So I appreciate you participating in that poll. So I'm going to let that poll run. And while we do that, I'm going to make my way to the kitchen. And because I live in London, my kitchen is right here, so I don't have to actually move. So I've got all of my mocktail ingredients laid out. For those of you that are joining in with us, if you want to move over to your kitchens, or you can just watch along. And luckily we have Hugh, who's going to lead us through how to make the uglito. Is that how you pronounce it?
Uglito, mocktail. Yeah, so the mocktail version, right? So
exactly.
I know it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and it's 5 minutes from being 5 o'clock in the UK. But sadly, I've still got half a day's work to do. Otherwise, we might add something a bit more alcoholic to this. But one thing that's great about Ugly is that it's a 0 calorie, 0 sugar, 0 sweetener beverage, and so if you're looking for a healthy non-alcoholic option, or if you're looking for something low calorie to mix with your booze, this isn't a great option. So we just thought we'd show some of the flexibility. You can also just drink a can instead of drinking a beer, right? So it does have its flexibility. But today, and I'm going to try and talk you through it, and I know Orla has put me to shame. I don't know if you can see her, but she has a incredibly fancy cocktail setup in front of her. So
wow,
we're going to run through this. And I must be honest, this is my first ever time doing a live demo of a mocktail making moment. So I have everything in front of me too. So I'm going to talk you through. This is the Uglito mocktail version. So we start with mint. So I don't know who has the mint. Orla, if you can.
I've got mine.
I've got my mint.
Take your mint leaves off your mint stalk and add those to your glass. I'm working here. I don't know if you can see mine, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So add, I don't know what, like 2 sprigs. What's that? That's what I'm working with. I'm actually using pineapple mint, which I didn't know was a thing until last night. So we're working that. Give that a little squeeze just to release the minty goodness.
Squeezing
like a Colgate advert. And then what you need next is limes. So here's some I prepared earlier. I have my sliced limes. And then what
Art attack.
Sorry, Orla?
It's like, I said it's like art attack. Here's
like
what I prepared earlier.
And then you squeeze one of the limes over the mint without destroying your laptop like I just did.
Yeah, I'm trying to not spray it on my keyboard, but
yeah. So squeeze the lime juice over that, and then mix that up a bit. I'm using the back of a spoon. Or's probably got a fancy muddler. She's
very professional.
I don't know what the difference is between these. I'm actually a fraud. I just happen to have a
yeah, that'll work.
So gear, but no idea.
And then,
exactly.
And then add your crushed ice or cubes of ice to that. Hopefully everyone's following along. I'm making this cup here. I've got enough mint to last me a month, by the way, guys. So I'm going to be making a few of these. This will be my first attempt. And then all that's left to do, how simple is this, is to crack open your can of, we have Ugly Lemon and Lime. And look at this, right? We're in 2 time zones, all making the same drink at the same time. So
it's a beautiful thing.
I actually have 25 milliliters extra. So what we should be doing is adding about, I don't know, as much as left that's in your glass, probably about half a can to 2/3 of a can. Give it a final stir. And I think we've made it to having a nice mocktail. So there's nothing left, but we're obviously all Brits here, so cheers.
Cheers everyone.
Cheers,
thank you for coming.
Thanks for listening.
I've got a strain mine now.
And
oh
honestly,
my God,
I'm really biased. I'm really biased, but this is really good. So everybody should try it.
That is really good. It weirdly tastes like it's got gin in it.
Doesn't it? It tastes like a proper gin.
Well,
It's really nice.
You can, of course, add anything to this to spice it up if that's your thing. But as it's 11 in the morning for me, I have a meeting in 3 minutes. I probably should keep off it for the moment.
I think you should take this off it.
Yeah, but yeah, hopefully that was interesting. But just one of the ways that you can use Ugly to make either not drinking or drinking a little bit different with no calories.
Thank you so much. Right. So we're quickly going to get to the trivia question. This is the where there's the chance to win a prize. So everybody listen up. Everyone get ready on the chat because it's going to be a speedy one. So here's how it's going to work. Hugh is going to ask the question, and the first and 20th person to get the right answer in the chat will both win a 3-month supply of Ugly drinks. So really a great prize. So everybody get ready, and here we go. Hugh, what is the question for the prize?
When I was introducing the brand earlier, I said that we worked out of a very interesting office in London when we first started. What was the office? What type of building was it? If you get the answer to that question, then the month supply could be heading to you.
Oh, the answers are coming in. Oh my God. Okay. And so the correct answer, Hugh, was?
A shipping container.
Exactly. Wow. Well done,
Didn't have
everyone.
windows, if anyone
So the first one who got that was Harry Noel Smith. Well done, Harry.
Congrats,
and
Harry.
My colleague Trevor is going to shout out to me the 20th person. Trevor, do you know who that is?
Good luck.
I think we're going to give that one to Benjamin Faruja. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Benjamin. Okay, amazing. So Harry and Benjamin, you are the winners today. Congratulations. We will contact you after to find out what flavors you want, and you will get your 3 months worth of Ugly drinks delivered straight to your door. So thank you for playing, everyone. For the rest of you, Ugly are still kindly offering an exclusive discount code for you on their website. So keep an eye out in your emails for that. Next time on Live from Your Laptop, we have a very cool brand on the show. We have Heat joining us. If you haven't heard of Heat, they are a high-end mystery fashion box company who are blowing up in the Gen Z influencer world. So we are thrilled to have them on Live from Your Laptop on the 10th of June. So make sure you subscribe to attend, and I hope you guys can join us again. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you all for joining. Big thank you to Hugh and all.